have any other questions, we might start.
Well, let's start and see where we land.
This is Ren. So this is Catherine, Monash University Librarian at the time that we are looking at. Is that right?
That's right.
Good. How do you feel about it all?
Oh, I'm okay.
So, Dennis.
I'll just put my phone on silent.
Yes. Check.
Stories about libraries don't usually start in bedrooms, but this one does. Every morning I wake up thinking about a woman named Ada Booth. She was an Australian physicist and educator, and when she passed away at age 81, she donated thousands of books and a $10 million trust to the library where I work. But the thing is, we hardly know anything about Ada. And that's something I'm determined to change. By the way, my name's Diana and I work at Monash University Library. I'm the Ada Booth librarian and it's my job to take care of the Ada Booth Slavic collection, which was made possible by Ada's very generous benefaction. Ada's name is everywhere. But when people ask me about her, there isn't really much I can say. There's some stories, yes, but honestly, they seem a little off or, I don't know, there's just a lot missing.
Amazing walking through here thinking all the different decisions she would have made buying these books. And all the different languages that she spoke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you feel when you come through?
Well, I love Slavic literature, but I guess the question is more about Ada. I think it maybe points to her interest areas, which will help me with my job and in selection and sort of the collection strategy and profile.
So you don't know much about her, do you?
No, and all I sort of have is a couple of lines about what her employment was and this collection. The chat with Lara made me think, what can Ada's collection tell us about her? There are books in Polish, Czech, Russian, Ukrainian, Slovenian, and, well, more than 20 other languages. They cover literature, left-wing politics, history, linguistics, and so much more. Did Ada read all these languages? And why was she so interested in Eastern Europe? Have you seen this?
No. Bookmark?
Yep, a bookmark.
Bookmark, Ada's bookmark.
All right, this.
Oh, is it her passport?
Yeah. It's when she went over to the Soviet Union. Mrs. Ada Phyllis with an F. Moscow to Sydney. Okay, here's what we know. Ada was born in 1921 and she died in 2008. She was a physicist at the University of Melbourne, and the Ada Booth Slavic collection was established in 2011 at Monash University, along with a trust to support it. This is all outlined in Ada's will. Liv and I took a deep dive into the archives. We find out that Ada's dad, Claude James Booth, was an electrical engineer, and her mum, Irene, was a music teacher and pianist. Ada had a younger sister, also called Irene, and the family lived in Caulfield, one of Melbourne's inner suburbs. Ada went to school at the Presbyterian Ladies' College. In 1939, she was awarded Dux and received 2 scholarships. She graduated with a Bachelor of Science at Melbourne Uni in 1943, and 13 years later she enrolled in a Bachelor of Arts majoring in Russian language and literature. As far as we can tell, she never married, she never had children. We couldn't find any family connections to Eastern Europe. We found very little of her writing, and we've only ever seen a few photos of Ada.
So I was told very little about her. So I was told that she was a physicist at University of Melbourne, that she visited the Soviet Union early on, that she was a communist, but then kind of fell out of love with communism.
Yep.
She was really interested in women's studies. She had really broad interests. She fell out with her family, so she kind of didn't talk with her sister. No one could tell me why. I was told that she was a loner, which I found really hard to believe because I know people who work at universities. None of them are really loners. They know people. And it was really hard for me to get a full picture of her. I think her history is probably one of the most interesting parts of that whole Ada Booth role.
Yeah.
Because nothing that we do would be here without her.
Trying to find information about her has been hard.
So the most important thing you really need to pay attention to is the will. Everything is governed by the will. You have to understand this is Ada's language. This is her speaking to you. And she's very clear on what she envisioned for what should happen with her money.
Where do you think I should go to next?
I think your best shot to just get more records of her life is probably Melbourne. Seeing that she worked at the University of Melbourne, there will be something in the archives. But I think, reach out to the people who knew her, look at the archives. I think that's the best starting point. And do it soon.
Maybe that's...
I first knew Ada Booth back in the mid-70s, and the university was a very different place and the School of Physics was a very different place in those times. I knew Ada as what would now be called the director of first-year studies. In the mid-70s, the School of Physics was very male-dominated. There weren't any senior women on the staff, and Ada stood out because she was a member of the academic staff in the School of Physics. But I have a feeling that it was somewhat difficult for her as being the only woman on the staff. The fact that her office was on level 2 also reflected a certain physical isolation in the building because most of the other academic staff offices were levels 3 up until the top floor, level 7, where the professors had their offices. That was the only floor, level 7, that had carpet in the corridors, so you knew you were in a special place when you went up to level 7.
I have the will. So yeah, first, second, third, and then obviously she made another one. And I direct my executor to observe my desire that my dead body be handed over to the Anatomy School of the University of Melbourne.
I was the university solicitor, a lawyer at Monash University, and my relationship with Ada began with a contact from the university librarian, Catherine Harbo-Ree, in July 2009. Catherine had received advice that the will of Miss Ada Phyllis Booth had been probated and that Monash University Library was named as the substantial beneficiary of the income of a fund that we discovered had been assessed for probate at more than 10 million Australian dollars.
We were certainly intrigued. We didn't know who Ada Booth was at the time. We rapidly did a little investigation, but that was only partially helpful.
I went to Ada Booth's house in Caulfield before she passed away. I went there with a couple of other colleagues from Monash. She showed us the collection and pointed out the different categories of books she had there. She was a very a rather quiet person. She responded to our questions, but she didn't elaborate in great detail about what she had there.
In her will, she made it very clear that any income Monash University Library received was not to be used by the university as an excuse for reducing the library's budget.
The estate included a flat, which Ada had been living in, and a house, which Irene had been living in, which was the original family home, and both of them became part of the estate. Both of them had huge amount of collection material, books. Both Ada and Irene's books were double stacked, so the shelves were full, overflowing worth of books. There are other things that they collected as well. And we trustees would meet in one or the other of these properties and decide how we would be best able to clean them up, organise the collection material, get them on the market and then sell them. One doesn't expect to be the trustee in a situation like that. It probably isn't in the job specification for a university librarian.
Every new piece of information prompts more questions. If Ada was a communist and received what would have been a fairly humble income, how on earth did she end up with $10 million? And if she worked at the University of Melbourne, why did she leave it all to Monash?
She made a lot of money. She started with just $50,000 and it was a payout probably for her retirement from Melbourne University. I know she didn't fully retire because she often went back there to help out and do statistics and things for them. But when she got this payout, Jim Carr helped her invest it into a portfolio of shares, and they would have been the standard, mix of blue chip shares. By the time I met her, she already had hundreds of small companies that she'd chosen herself, and every time she got a dividend she'd be rushing into the office with the dividend cheque to reinvest it and add another company. So she had a huge portfolio of small investments, and in her spidery handwriting she'd handwritten them all on a list, and every day she used to value them, and at any time she knew what she was worth to the cent. So that was Ada.
Did she ever talk about her political leanings?
Not at all to me. Jim told me she was fluent in Russian and other languages, so I knew that, but Ada never mentioned it, no.
One thing that I've always found interesting is that she names the collection in the will.
Oh, yes.
So it's made me think that she planned, or she had an idea of this.
I think so. She turned her flat into a library. It was just lined with bookshelves.
Oh my God.
And all that stuff that came in the mail from overseas, she had it all filed. And it was unbelievable when I first saw it. And I never saw the rest of the flat until after she died.
Oh my
And the rest of the flat, she didn't even have a bedroom. It was all library shelves everywhere. And she had a single bed, pallet. It was sort of in the laundry area, I think, where she used to sleep. So you would never believe it.
All right, so this is such a strange folder.
Students with one demonstrator only. All of the students, and then she's like recording what grades they ended up getting. This is all statistics about the students. Okay, there's a lot of people.
So she used to be a lecturer in physics. I'm quite sure she would have been very good at it. It seemed to me that they moved her out of lecturing into what was a semi-administration come student. And the impression I gained from her was she wasn't happy about that. She wanted to be a lecturer. That's how I got. And I think she probably tried to stay a lecturer, but for whatever's going on in the Melbourne University Department of Physics Department, that's not where she ended up.
Nobody's been able to confirm Ada was a communist, and there's nothing in the archives. But her books tell a different story. She collected them during the Cold War. I wonder, was the government suspicious?
Hello? I can't believe Ada has ASIO files. Do you know what ASIO stands for?
Australian Security
Intelligence
Office? Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, it sounds like she was part of Tasmanian Communist Party in Hobart. This is a quote. "I've read the Bible and that is what forced me to the conclusion that communism is the best thing to follow. That is just why I'm a communist." I wonder how long she was in Hobart.
Ready for landing. Please review the safety card found in your seat pocket, as it contains important...
As I visit the places where she worked and lived, I try to imagine her life here, away from her family, in her late 20s, campaigning for change.
Hi, Liv. It's Diana. I'm just at the house, 10 Jennings Street. I will keep you posted and let you know. Okay, bye.
Being part of something bigger than herself.
On the 17th of April 1953, a meeting of cadres of the Communist Party of Australia was held at Unity Hall. Approximately 70 persons attended this
Date
meeting,
of report
amongst whom was Ada Phyllis Booth.
4-3. 52 Ada Booth is known in the party as Ada Boyd. She is described as a journalist, author, ex-secretary of the Tasmanian branch, Communist Party of Australia, untidy in dress and appearance.
But so many records from her time in Hobart are lost. All we have are the ASIO files, and they definitely had their own agenda.
Date of report 4-3. 52 Ada Booth is known in the party as Ada Boyd. She is described as a journalist, author, ex-secretary of the Tasmanian branch, Communist Party of Australia, untidy in dress and appearance.
Communist, investor, physicist, educator, introvert, friend, scholar, activist. We've been able to uncover some interesting things about Ada, but I wish we could find something that was more personal. All the people who really knew her have passed away. Have we left it too late? Liv and I are just about ready to give up. We keep hitting so many dead ends.
Let's look for some letters. I feel like the letters...
But then we come across a small folder with a handful of letters that span decades. They're not from Ada, but from a family in Moscow, Yevgeny, Nina and their daughter Tamara. One letter from 1976 has 2 bits of information.
Women say it's the same handwriting.
You would be a great detective.
Dear Ada, it was a great pleasure for me to receive your letter. Now some news about my study.
Tamara is studying medicine and is moving to Helsinki. It's been more than 50 years. But incredibly, Liv finds Tamara.
He wants that I should work 1 month of summer, practice under his supervision.
You asked me in your letter if I have received many letters from students of medical department. I think that according to the rise of postal expenditures, they prefer not to be engaged in correspondence. Now I have nobody to correspond except you. Hope to hear from you soon and see you either in Moscow or in Helsinki someday. My best regards, but there is no date. I didn't put the date, but I think that was before 79. Probably she was such a big friend to our family that my father put her to this family album. I will show you the picture. It's here. This is my father. He was this age approximately when they met with Ada. Ada was older. Ada was in Moscow, I think, for quite a long time, and she visited our home, I think Sundays or Saturdays, and she liked to come to us, although we had a very small place. And at that time, when I was young, I was thinking about Australia. It's a kind of, another planet. This letter is very short, but when I am free, I will write you a long and interesting letter. My best regards to you, Tamara. I think she was lonely and she probably needed some kind of warm, understanding relationship. She appreciated this very much. I guess she was an intellectual and she had high standards towards other people. She wanted them to be also on the same level of being interested in life in general. Maybe she could not find and she chose her own way. It's better to be with a wise person, being alone with herself, than to be in a crowd of stupid people. That is my guess.
It's very hard to imagine a person that you've just seen a couple of photos of and that's your visual image of them, and then you know some facts about. Ada left home very young. She graduated from secondary school very young. She was a very, very bright person and, taught herself Russian and travelled to Russia, and, that's where that sort of passion came from. So I think of her as being in her head a lot, a person whose main comfort was in pursuing her passions, which were quite intellectual, really.
She didn't appear to be a person who wanted you to know her.
She was a physicist, no doubt spent quite a lot of time trying to unravel and understand the puzzles of the universe. I suspect she probably wouldn't mind being thought of as a bit of a puzzle herself. And she wouldn't mind, I think, people trying to understand the puzzle.
It'll be up that way.
Yeah.
What a nice place to be buried.
It's very nice.
So, like, private. There it is.
There it is. Doesn't say a lot.
There's still so much we don't know about Ada, and there will always be gaps. But we started with almost nothing, and now we've got a much fuller picture. Ada was clearly brilliant, meticulous, hardworking, and passionate about education. She was incredibly astute and intentional in how she passed on her legacy. It's one that will last generations. Ada engaged with the world with a sort of independence and quiet assertiveness I can't help but admire. Like Tamara said, Ada really did choose her own way.